Welcome to the Realm Kast.
Welcome to the Realm Kast. I am your host, the Mortal Kombat Phantom, and with me as always is my co-host, our lore master Yanni. Welcome, Yanni.
Thanks, Phantom, and we'd like to welcome comic book author Charles Marshall. Welcome.
Thanks, guys. It's nice to be here.
Hey, Charles, it's so great to have you on the show today. For those of our fans who don't know, Charles Marshall is the original author of the Mortal Kombat books by Malibu Comics back in the 90s. So we're so excited that you joined us today because we got a lot of questions to go through and a lot of lore to talk to you about.
It's a big one.
You may have to jog my memory some. I have trouble remembering what I had for breakfast some days. So we're talking about 30.
Before we jump into your career, when were you first introduced to Mortal Kombat? Was it with the comic books or did you have some history of it before you got picked up by Malibu?
It was straight up with the game. I was working as a creative director at a marketing company, and our offices were next door to a mall that had an arcade. And there were a couple of dudes that worked there that we would go over and we'd have these crazy cutthroat skee-ball games at the arcade. And there were two skee-ball lanes, so there was always somebody waiting around. And I remember just looking over and seeing this game and going, wow, what's that? And just, it was so different. And I'm sure you guys know about how different it was, but it really jumped out. And we transitioned from skee-ball to playing Mortal Kombat during lunch hours. And it's funny, I've been listening to you guys all week. Most of the guests, it sounds, really came to this game in their young, 10 years old, 12 years old, young teenagers. I was in my late 20s, so I had a completely different perspective of the game. It was interesting as a game, but to me, it was the characters that really drew me in.
Really? So you mean like the lore aspect?
Yeah, I just thought that even through the gameplay and the violence, which was so different for the time, but just the little bit of snippets of the story that were provided there. And you just got a sense that there was a lot more to the characters than what you were seeing. Yeah.
This actually makes me so happy to hear, because this is how I really got hooked myself. It's so nice to hear this from somebody other than me. And you've actually put it into words better than I've ever been able to. It was a game and it was amazing to see people playing and to play it yourself. But there was that background to the characters, which you knew was there, but you didn't have it all in front of you. And I just love hearing how you just put it right there. Was there any specific character that drew you in when you saw that?
They were all so interesting. You had to pick because you were playing with limited amount of money. So you picked one player and kind of got good at it. I was getting good at Kano. I think that was just because I watched somebody and figured out the moves, but it really was more that aspect of it that drew me in than the gameplay. I wasn't really a huge gamer at that point in my life, but I saw the comic book potential for it immediately. And that was why I took the idea to Malibu that I was doing work with at the time.
So you saw Mortal Kombat, the first Mortal Kombat at first, and that's really what kind of hooked you in. Were you a fan more so of Mortal Kombat or Mortal Kombat 2 at the time, assuming we're sticking back to that era?
There was the Mortal Kombat 2 at the time.
No, as the years went on,
it was always the original for me. I'll be honest, I rarely even played any game after the first one. Okay. And the funny thing, we'll probably get into it, but the new characters from 2 kind of were thrown into the mix as we were already working on the first book. Kind of had to shoehorn them in, some of those in after the fact, after the book was pretty much plotted and planned. It was like a
lot of sense. Hearing about that.
First ball that I wasn't expecting, but we just tried to make it work as best we could.
So before we jump too much into the Mortal Kombat comics for Malibu, let's talk a little bit about your career and your history with Malibu Comics. How did you first get involved with them? Because you joined them at some point in the 90s. Is that right?
Yeah, I was interested in comics through my teenage years and had been reading them all my life. I tell you, the story that kind of got me inspired to try to do this was Jim Shooter story that he was the editor-in-chief at Marvel, but he got his start at 14 selling stories to DC Comics. He just sent them in they started buying them from him, and he was helping support his family in his teenage years. Had a great run on Legion of Superheroes. Just was sending these ideas in and through the mail. So I started doing the same thing, sending ideas to Marvel. And at first, I was getting just these standard rejection letters. Thanks, just a sentence basically. But over time, I'd get a standard rejection letter with a little note scribbled on it. And then eventually I started getting these really nice hand typed letters from Jim Shooter saying, hey, stick with it. Go, this is really some interesting stuff. Just, we don't have a place right now for this, or he would give me critiques, or it was rejection letters still, but there was a positive aspect to it that made me keep thinking I had something. Surely he wasn't doing this for everybody that sent stuff in.
Yeah,
was my
really.
thought process.
Yeah.
And then what happened was that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles hit and spawned the black and white boom of the 80s, where, if you had a proposal, you could get it published. Publishers were just hungry for content at that point. And I was getting work at several smaller companies and a little bit of work at, I think it was called Adventure Comics at that point. And I had some friends who were doing comic book work, and I was leaning on them to network their people. And one of them came into my office. At that point, I was working at the ad agency. And he came into my office and showed me this cover art he had done for Adventure, for Planet of the Apes. I said, oh my God, I'd kill somebody to write Planet of the Apes. And he said, I don't think they have a writer for it yet. And I knew the editor for it. I did a little bit of work for him. I picked up the phone. I said, man, we're going to make this happen. So I pick up the phone with him in my office and said, please tell me it's not too late to get involved with Planet of the Apes. He says, it's not too late, but we're going to make a decision tomorrow. We're going to look at all the proposals we have in. We're going to make a decision tomorrow. And I said, so you're saying I have a chance? So I closed my door to my office and I get to work. And this is after lunch. But luckily, I live in Memphis, Tennessee, the home of FedEx, and there's an office at the airport that you can drop off stuff at midnight and get delivered the next morning.
Oh, yeah.
So at midnight, I put a packet in the mail in the FedEx for delivery to California the next day. And I got a call the next afternoon and said, man, you killed it. Would you like to write Planet of the Apes?
Oh, that's awesome.
And that 2-year run on Planet of the Apes with a big product gave me I think, shored up my credentials enough to be able that they could trust me with Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
So,
Planet of the Apes was huge. You wrote every issue of the Malibu Planet of the Apes series. That's a huge accomplishment.
it was funny. We talk about licensing products. Planet of the Apes was just, they had no input whatsoever. They had never had they didn't say, here's what you have to do. They didn't say, here's what we want to approve every storyline. We want to approve every script. Nothing. I did some Star Trek work from Malibu where every script was just a bloodbath where they'd go, character. I liked Star Trek, but I was not a Star Trek. I wasn't versed on every aspect of it. It was torture for me to work on. And Mortal Kombat was just in that middle ground where we got input, but they weren't really super involved on the comic book aspects of it. And I'm sure that they were getting approved. And I had long conversations beforehand with John Tobias, where I had some of his reference material, which was surprisingly lean at first. I think it grew over time, but that game was built so quickly.
Yeah.
Know that more than I do even. There were a lot of aspects that they were just running flying blind. So we were just doing the best we could at that time.
That's actually interesting to hear about your interactions with the John Tobias, and we'll definitely get to that when we get into the Mortal Kombat section. I definitely want to hear more. But you didn't just, yeah, you started with Planet of the Apes and you didn't just make it your own when you wrote every issue. You actually wrote, was it spin-offs, I suppose, on it? You had Ape Nation, Ape City.
We had a lot of spin-offs. I am super bad about not saying no to anything. They asked me on Mortal Kombat and Planet of the Apes, we're going to do some other series. How many of them do you want to write? And I just said all of them. I want to write all. And it probably was to the detriment of my work, because I was overextended with a full-time job and a young family and writing 4 or 5 books a week. Wow. But I've always touted myself as the Mickey Spillane of comic book writing. I was better than anybody that could write faster and faster than anybody that could write better. So editors like that too. They knew they could depend on me. So it was, because I was a professional marketing writer, I brought a level of professionalism, I think, to that job that maybe everyone doesn't bring.
I find it interesting too that you also wrote the Bruce Lee comic books, which when we dive into the Mortal Kombat aspect, we're going to talk a little bit about that too, like the Bruce Lee relationship to the Mortal Kombat books. But when you're writing Bruce Lee, this was just all original ideas for you to do what you wanted with it. There was nothing from the estate.
I don't think I wrote Bruce Lee.
Oh, really? Oh. Okay. Oh, that could be a mistake.
I could have.
You seem to be credited with one of the roles involved in it.
I'm not saying I didn't. I don't.
It's been a while. That's the thing. For all we know, online the information could just be incorrect too.
Do you remember anything about the X-Mutant series that you were part of?
I came onto that late, and it was one of those. I probably phoned that one in more than any other project I worked. It was one of those. I was at a point where it was probably my first real assigned series that I got offered. So I felt like I had to take it, but it wasn't a labor of love. And it was probably more one of those learning experiences more than anything else. But we knew, I think by the time I started, I knew that it was not going to last very long.
Yeah, it seemed to have a certain style to it. That was a lot of almost Marvel X-Men-ish.
I didn't feel like I was really allowed to cut loose. And a lot of the ideas, I had some pretty out there ideas for it that they just, no, we don't want to. That was the great thing about Planet of the Apes and Mortal Kombat, was I felt like I was given a free hand. And I think a lot of that was because I demonstrated a affinity for both the licenses that I think that they respected and trusted me to be a steward of their babies. And John I think he was super comfortable with me just doing what I do. And I knew better than everything may not have come out perfect, but we were doing our best to showcase it in the most positive light.
Just talking to you, as well as having read your works, you can tell that you had that passion to it, which seems to be, without pointing fingers, it seems to be missing nowadays, not from Mortal Kombat itself, but just in general. You seem to see this with a lot of different franchises where people in charge don't seem to have that passion anymore. And the fact that you wrote every single issue in the end, for example, of Planet of the Apes, and you had full reign over Mortal Kombat, shows that you were trusted because of the fact that you had such an interest in it and you were keen on doing it properly too. So I'm not surprised.
It may have been, I don't know. I really, again, I feel like we overextended. It was kind of like drinking from a fire hose. It was a little too much too quickly. When I go back and look at it, I go, man, I saw where I cut some corners where, some things I would do different.
Yeah.
I think we all would. We were just blowing and going. So it was, the publishers then, they had pre-orders. The ordering process was so far out that they knew it was a hit before really we got going. They started adding titles, adding one-shots, adding new, and the fact that the Mortal Kombat 2 characters were folded in, it all just became a jumble. It's probably good to have one person driving because it would have gone all over the place. I tried to thread some stuff through all the books that kind of tied it all together somewhat, but I just remember having it, the way I work, I plan issues out beforehand. I may not have them written out, but I know where everything is going. And when they threw those characters in the mix, it was like, oh, excuse me, I just crapped my pants a little. Yeah.
So we were just talking about Ex-Mutants and obviously the sort of ties or similarities, I suppose, it had to Marvel. But Marvel actually ended up purchasing Malibu Comics in November 1994. Were you a part of any of the Marvel series?
I was about the time that Mortal Kombat came out. A person I worked with at the agency and I decided to start our own marketing firm. And it was actually great because I was making more money as a comic book writer than I was as a creative director at an ad agency, which was a pretty good paying job. So I was able to go without a paycheck for a few months while we got started. But what I didn't intend was for us to get so busy so fast and having to ramp up that I basically started having to turn down assignments, which was I never would have done in the past. And when a couple of my main editor, Mark Panicia, went to Marvel, he wanted to bring me in on some projects. And it was with tears in my eyes that I had to say, I can't do it. I had so many hours, and the thing about working for yourself, which I didn't realize at the time, as opposed to when I was working 9 to 5, I could leave it at work. When I was working for myself, I could never leave it at work. I was working nonstop. So I had to make a decision whether or not I thought I could make it full-time as a comic book writer, which I wasn't sure about, frankly. I was making good money, but still cat food or caviar. It's some days you're going to be riding high and you're going to have points where either the industry has a lull or the people you work with get moved out. You can't count on it. I didn't feel like I could count on it with a young family and other options. I feel like I missed an opportunity in some ways, but I don't really have too many regrets because we had a great 25-year run, sold the agency 2 years ago, and I'm now just working on things I like and things I want to. I'm still working, but I'm not as responsible for the whole ship anymore.
So where you work now, is that the same agency that you started, or you said
Yeah.
you had? Okay.
We sold it, but we kept the name as a division of another agency. But we do a lot of big time marketing stuff. We do a lot of work with FedEx, work with Hilton, work with all kinds of companies all over the country.
Yeah.
It was different, a lot different than comics, but in some ways it's not all that different. I'm still writing, I'm still creating, I'm getting to do special projects. I write all kinds of different materials. My job is never the same 2 days in a row. So that's
Right.
Very fresh.
what appeals to me. That's what I loved about comics. It was always fun to get into new projects, and I would have liked to done a little bit more different kinds of things, but I just completely ran out of time.
That must have really, you're saying it did, but it must have hurt because obviously with that passion you had for comics and then Marvel coming in, it's just, now this is the dream part and I can't say yes.
about doing a proposal for Deathlock, and I was like,
Gosh.
Oh,
I couldn't do it. It was like, wow. I've had a few instances like that throughout my life where I had opportunities and just didn't have the time to do it all. So you only do so much, and then you got to know your limitations. And
Jeez. So I guess let's, in the grand scheme of things, how long did you end up working for Malibu? We know you started sometime in the 90s and then it went up until 94.
That was probably it. We started Signature in 94. That probably, it was only a matter of months before we just got so swamped that it was hiring people. We just couldn't keep up.
So that's incredible then, because that means that most of the Mortal Kombat comics you worked on was in basically that short period of time.
It was in a very short window.
Pumping them out. You meant it when you said you
really.
did them done so fast.
It was fast. But in some ways that was good too, because I found that sitting on projects for a month or two doesn't necessarily make it better. Just sometimes you just overwork the material. In the process of getting ready to talk to you guys, I went back and read a lot of the work, and I was actually surprised not to hate it. Because a lot of the things I look back and go, I hate that. That's terrible.
We have a previous episode. We have a previous episode recorded where we looked at how Malibu influenced a lot of the lore in the current series. And we were just surprised at how much good stuff was in there that carried over and became part of everything that's in Mortal Kombat these days. Even like characteristics of some of these characters, like the Sonya Blade and Johnny Cage relationship, things like that, which ended up becoming canonized in the video games. And you set up this whole world of Mortal Kombat in a lot of ways, because as you said, when you guys started doing this, there was just the first game, and the second game was in the process of being released. So you guys were able to write the book on Mortal Kombat in a lot the same ways that John Tobias and John Vogel were able to do with the video game series. So to me, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was fun. They gave us a lot to work with. I'll give them that. And John's input was vital on it. And then they gave us a free hand to explore some concepts I was interested in and to do some things that were maybe not quite so expected. We were following, I think Malibu had Street Fighter, and nobody in my crowd was happy with with how that went. And if we get this, we're going to do it better. And yeah. I felt like we did better. That's right.
Phantom just mentioned the episode that we did with Tabmot. That was one of our first episodes, actually, on the forgotten lore, as we said, tying in the old lore from the older games, as well as the comics, the TV shows, etc. Now, growing up, I had access to a couple of Mortal Kombat comics, but I didn't get to read them all. In my research for that episode, I ended up going through the entirety of your works and everything else, all the stuff that I'd missed. And as a big lore fan, I tend to look at changes to the lore that I know in such a way where does that make sense? I criticize it. I see whether or not it fits in. And honestly, even if it didn't completely fit, I still truly enjoyed it. And I'm not just saying that because I'm talking to you right now. I actually really enjoyed going through everything, even though it was in a very short span of time. And I still really enjoyed going through it and seeing how it all fit. And as Phantom said, it truly did pave the way for a lot of the lore that we have nowadays. And we're going to touch on that, I think, as we go through the comics that you wrote.
The thing is, it was Mortal Kombat. You were still, a lot of people will take a story and they'll make their own thing. Especially these days, you'll have these writers that come on and they're like, I want to do my interpretation and I want to break the mold and stuff like that. But you were writing Mortal Kombat, and no matter how you look at it, you had these different things going into it. You had Goro getting whisked away to Earthrealm and stuff like that. But this was still a Mortal Kombat comic book with all these gods and mortals and this tournament.
Mysticism.
It was there. It was all there in this Malibu series. So yeah, it's always around. You said you were just putting out comics. You alone, I think, ended up having hand in about 7 or 8 different titles during this short period of time. Just to name a few, there was the Mortal Kombat Battle Wave series, the Goro Prince of Pain, Raiden and Kano, Katana Molina, Kung Lao, Baraka series, and you ended up participating in all of them. And so we got a lot to talk about. Did you have any real connection to the games before you started writing this? You had mentioned that you had talked to John Tobias a little bit, and you played the first game, but was that basically it, the bias from the games, and then you were handed?
It was from the games, and I just approached Malibu about it, and then I forgot about it. I think it was like 6 months later before they contacted me back and said, we decided to do it, and since you brought it in, we're going to give you first shot at it. That was the other thing, that I was notorious for, just hitting up people with ideas. I would send, if you were an editor at a comic book publisher during that time, you probably got a proposal from me to do something. So I would send out proposals and I would forget about it. And Mortal Kombat was pretty much, I didn't bug them every week. Hey, how's that Mortal Kombat coming? I just said, surprised as anyone when they came back and said, we're going to do it. It was just
awesome. Great feeling. Yeah, like, oh, what was that? Oh, I'm writing it now.
Being in the right place at the right time, but a lot of them it's just taking a swing. If you take enough swings, you're going to get some hits. And that was the way it was. And it was definitely something I was interested in, but it wasn't like I was interested in a lot of stuff. That was the only video game I can never remember, or the only licensed product, I guess I could say, that I would try to get them to go get.
On one of our recent episodes, we had a conversation with one of the actors from the original video games, Daniel Pacina, and he was telling us the story about how the actor for Raiden and the actor for Kano used to joke around on set of making the video game of doing like a tag team thing where they could both team up and fight together against the opponent. And it was something that never actually made it into the first video game, but that Raiden and Kano connection was established there because of their friendship. And whenever I read Malibu Comics, I always thought it was strange that you ended up writing a Raiden and Kano storyline, because I didn't know the story. And I was like, what would inspire this writer to want to team up these two characters, like the criminal underworld mercenary guy and the God of Thunder? Now that I have you here, what was the thinking behind that when you were pitching that story?
I'm probably going to just make something up. I'm sure it had to do with, I knew that if it was a Kano story, that I wanted to do a redemption story that doesn't work out. And I didn't feel like he could carry that by himself. And I'm pretty sure that was the first or second one they came out after. I'm pretty sure it was just because they were such opposite characters. It'd just be fun to play. I just felt like Kano couldn't carry it. Raiden probably could, but he was so aloft that I think I felt like those two together might be a lot more interesting than either one of them apart.
It ended up being one of my favorite storylines, especially after rereading it recently. And you added all these little elements to the story too. Raiden's, I don't know what you call them, servants, or they're powered creatures or people who worked for him. And it was wind and rain. And wind had this wind power and rain had this water power. And they ended up kind of being inspirations to what came in the video game later. We had Fujin, the god of wind. And then we had Rain, who is this prince with water powers. It's cool to see the impact of Malibu Comics in the franchise itself.
No, it was a lot of those where I was listening to your Forgotten Lore podcast as you're driving up. And it's funny to hear all the speculation about these. Basically, I was given one rule: you can't kill anybody. So anybody that got killed in the series, I made up. And they were all our creations. The only character he ever let us kill was Sub-Zero in the second tournament edition, as they were replacing him with another Sub-Zero. So if a character got killed, that was my character.
Yeah. I technically have you to thank, because I don't know if you've noticed, you technically inspired my favorite character from Mortal Kombat. That's Rain.
Yeah. I know that. I think we were just trying to, he was just trying to humanize Raiden a little bit, try to add a little something. We're really hemmed in a little bit. You couldn't add too much to the story. You couldn't add a whole lot of new characters that really had no place to go in the game. And you couldn't kill off a main character, which for a game that's really just about two characters meeting up, fighting, and killing each other, that doesn't leave you a lot to work with. So adding those characters and trying to make them not seem so red shirt Star Trek characters that was the challenge. You know what? Go ahead.
No, sorry. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. Please continue.
No, I was just saying that it's what I was trying to do was create characters that if you walked in not knowing anything about the game, they look like they belonged in the book, and whether they got killed or not. Even characters that maybe only showed up a couple of panels had some thought process behind it.
You could tell that like a lot of your works has obviously inspired, and that was the entire topic that we had on that episode, where you're writing, the characters you created, certain little plot points you created truly inspired certain things that we see now. And as we mentioned now with Wind and Rain, and how you see like all those characters, they completely fit within the lore of Mortal Kombat. Even just forgetting the individual characters of Wind and Rain, I guess the word you were looking for, Phantom, was that they were elementals, which was also a sort of inspiration to mythologies with the elementals in that game as well. But one comic that really stuck out to me, this is probably my favorite one from your writing, was Kung Lao. And it felt it was a very solitary comic. It was a very interesting approach. The rest of the comics, apart from, I would say, maybe Kitana and Melina, which I also truly enjoyed, were very like larger story focused. Like everybody's involved in this larger plot point and everything. Whereas Kung Lao felt a lot more grounded in one specific character in one area. And for those of you who haven't read the comic, it's basically Kung Lao is being attacked by these fighters and he's trying to figure out what's going on. And it actually turns out to be Shang Tsung. And
there's so much of his thought process through this comic book. Like you see him thinking, so many thought boxes throughout the comic book too.
Yeah. And it's like a reflection on his self, learning to accept himself or even fighting against himself and everything. And that one, I really wanted to ask, what was the approach here? What was the idea behind it, if you remember at all? Because this one really felt different from the rest to me.
I don't know. I think I tried to add a hook to each character that gave me something to play with that maybe wasn't in the game, whether it was even if it was just a sense of just something that was driving this character that beyond the physical attributes or the things that John had put into him or the team had put into it. I needed something that would just give me a place to take a story. And the way I put these things together, and I think that one was benefited from this, I would meticulously plot out things. And because I had a background in working with art directors on like storyboards and ads and whatnot, that I had a background in directing artists on how to, so I would figure out what I wanted action to take, plot it all out, even block it out, and go back after that was all done and write it all in one, write all the dialogue at one time. I separated those two parts of the script writing because I really wanted, once the actual writing started, I wanted it to flow. And I think that was a good example of one that kind of flowed more so than a lot of the main books. You jump from character to character or scene to scene. I felt like that one had more flow to it maybe than some of them. I really liked the character studies in some of the one-shots. Just because we had time with a team book, it's just so hard to devote much time to any sort of reflection or character development. And this gave us a chance to just play with it. So if it came off a little more, not better, but just more impactful, maybe that was a part of the reason.
One aspect of the Kung Lao books was he hinted at a romantic interest in Katana. And at this point in your writing, did you have any character bios from Mortal Kombat 2? Because these were some of those characters that you mentioned that were handed to you.
I'm sure that I did. It was funny because as I recollect, and then again, talking decades, I remember getting the information, but it was way before the game came out. And I just had sketches and these short bios, not much more than we had for the first one, but I felt, I don't know, for some reason, not seeing the game, even the movements and everything in the game gave you some clue to what these characters were about in a way. And maybe that was just the actors that put them in, but probably sorry.
The Kung Lao thing, that whole romantic relationship with Katana, I found interesting because after the Mortal Kombat movie, they kept Liu Kang's romantic interest in Katana and made that a whole aspect. But
right,
while you're writing the comic books, you're still trying to explore some of those relationships that hadn't been established at this point.
I just don't have a strong recollection about that at all.
That's all right. Yeah.
Yeah. I just blazed through some of those books, rereading them lately, and I just didn't bring up a lot of strong memories. I know there's probably some of that there. I just don't recall.
So I really do wish that, sorry, Phantom, I really do wish that they actually continued with your take on Kung Lao, because that was the most interesting version of him, in my opinion. Right now, he's become this sort of arrogant fighter who is just very envious of Liu Kang's abilities, and even Katana, apparently, according to the latest game. Whereas your take on Kung Lao was a lot more mysterious, and that was how I looked at him in his first couple of appearances.
That's kind of how his Mortal Kombat 2 bio was written, so that it makes sense that you would have been given this mysterious character, and then you kept him very mysterious in your comic books, because that's what was interesting about Malibu, is so much of it lined up with the bios to the level where you're not trying to give away too much more information than what's already been known to these characters for the players and the people who are following the lore.
Sure. And then try to do that, try to keep it interesting, try not to kill anybody. It's kind of our
the 3 roles.
Our guide poles.
Most of your one-off shots, you had the Mortal Kombat Battle Wave, which was like your main overarching series, but the one-shots all seemed to be mostly about some of these new characters. So was it kind of like how you mentioned they just gave you a list of who's going to be coming out in Mortal Kombat 2 and have fun, play with these guys?
Yeah, it was pretty much, I think they were more interested because 2 was coming out to focus on those characters. It just made sense drives interest in the new game. That was what everyone was talking about at the time, and they were hungry for more information about these new characters. Fairly certain that was drove the.
So I have a couple questions about the Goro Prince of Pain series, which is not one of my favorite ones, but I do have quite an appreciation for it, especially after rereading it. And it's where you took Goro, and in the main comic book, the Battle Wave stuff, all of a sudden Goro vanishes away, and follow Goro Prince of Pain to see what happens to him. And you transported him to Earthrealm, and I think the first thing he does is fight a car or something like that. Right. And I find that really interesting that Goro is in Earthrealm, experiencing Earth for the first time, and he's this big monster creature, but at the same time you're writing him as somebody who is calculating and thinking things through. And it almost seemed to inspire the current Mortal Kombat movie, because you had Goro showing up in Earthrealm fighting a truck, and it seems to have taken, I don't know purposely, but a lot of that same thought process, except for in the movie Goro wasn't intelligent. It didn't seem like he was just this monster.
Yeah.
And you ended up having Goro face across these different people, like the God of Chaos and the God of Order, and these original characters that you could written into it, which, you know, the God of Chaos or the God of Order was named Abacus, and you had the God of Chaos, and I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Is it Zagot? Is it Zagot?
Yeah, I guess. Zagot.
All right.
No, let's pronounce it. I was what A to Z, I think. So ends of the spectrum.
Oh,
so.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
What was that?
A to Z.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thinking about it from a spectrum.
Yeah. Complete opposites. Oh, that's interesting.
How did we miss that on the other episode too?
It never occurred to me until now. So again, these characters went on to seem to have inspired Mortal Kombat. Ended up having an Order realm and a Chaos realm, just like you had a God of Chaos and the God of Order.
Yeah.
Like Yanni was saying earlier, this stuff, when we look at these comic books, we think about how it ties in, and we can easily see characters like that tying into what they ended up doing with Mortal Kombat, which was pretty cool. But back on the topic, what made you decide to run with Goro in this direction? Because he's one of the original Mortal Kombat 1 characters, so I'm thinking you might have had a little bit more of a grasp on him.
Yeah, that was one that we knew, because he was really the most probably identifiable character, that we wanted to do something to take him away from the main group. And there just wasn't a whole lot there. So concocting a whole story there was really a challenge. And we liked more the visual. They showed me the cover before we even, the first issue, which he just killed. And we knew we had to do something just different. And that was really going for, was just different. Something that took him away from the expected of him.
Yeah.
And I liked the idea of Raiden being part of a pantheon that might have included other gods that we never met. And
didn't
really
exactly
play a part. I love the idea of Raiden as this misfit god that doesn't agree with the rest of the team.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try to embrace that idea.
Yeah, and that's something that I, again, carried over throughout the entire series, even up to the new games. He's this misfit god. Even we talked with Sean Catherine Derrick, the writer of the TV series, and she did the same thing. She saw him as this misfit god who loved his earth creatures and wanted to like puppy dog them all and take them all in. So yeah, that same, again, it's cool. All these characteristics carry over throughout everything Mortal Kombat related. And it's cool to see that even with the limited knowledge that you were given with it, that you embraced the same aspects of the characters and wrote the same characteristics. Goro ends up, at the end of that series, ends up fighting the God of Chaos's creation, which was the combatant with a K, of course. And he was like this big 6-armed creature with like a metallic head. And what was your inspiration for creating this thing, this monstrosity?
I think it came from the game, where at the end you had to fight all these different characters that kept morphing into different characters. So the idea of taking all that idea and forming a new character appealed to me. And really, it's hard to come up with something that's going to give Goro a run for his money. Yet combining all these other characters and all their abilities at least gave us someone that could go toe to toe with him. But I loved that. The thing I loved most about that, though, was he talked about his cunning. The fact that he wouldn't fight at the end is what, to me, made it interesting. Again, as a writer, I'm trying to keep it interesting for myself too. So I said, what was the most unexpected thing that could happen here? Is not just, it's really challenging in some ways to make Mortal Kombat into a comic book because it's just a lot of punching and kicking and these characters, there's a lot to them, but there's a lot lacking as well, and a lot we couldn't do. So it was always a balancing act.
Yeah, it's fun how you say that Mortal Kombat is basically just a lot of punching and kicking, and that's exactly right. And at the same time, what drew you in was the lore aspect, and then you ended up writing the lore behind it. Or
yeah, if I could have done it without the fighting, I probably would have done it. I thought there was enough there you could have. And there were little things. The thing I liked about the last movie was the ties back to the game, the fun little things that just the nostalgia stuff. And that's what I tried to always have some connection to the game, some connection to, we constantly would say it's not a game. This isn't the game we're playing, when obviously it's the game we're playing.
Yeah. So I'd like to ask about the Katana and Melina one shot then. That was technically more of a Katana story, which obviously involved Melina purely because of her actual creation or the origins of her creation. One thing I found very interesting about this issue, it was just one issue, was how you actually were the first one, if I remember correctly, to properly demonstrate who King Jared was. And you set the tone for his character as well. You gave him an appearance, which was I suppose the first time we've actually ever seen King Jared. And I don't know if you're aware, but many Mortal Kombat fans have been asking to see Jared in some form for many years now. And you also showed him off as this hero who was bested by Shang Tsung and, of course, in turn, Shao Kahn, who then took over the role of father. Now, this role of Shao Kahn being a father is one of the most interesting aspects to me, actually, of this, because many ways that Shao Kahn is portrayed nowadays do not show him being a father. It's more of him being this big brute, this powerful presence who just wants to invade and destroy and conquer. And you gave him this very refreshing sort of fatherly role to Katana. What was the idea behind that? Because you actually have him showing, like, what was the word? I suppose brainwashing, putting a spell on Katana to remove her memories. So what was the logic there?
I'm guessing that it's the fact that I was a father of young kids. And it's probably that influenced a lot of what it was doing. I had a 2-year-old at the time. I'm sure that if it wasn't that, I know on those books that I leaned on John a lot more just because I don't feel like I had the grasp on the characters he did. And at that point, I think I don't even remember what publication was for, but I was doing, I want to say, monthly interviews with John. We'd have these long discussions that I would boil down to for these interviews, and just rambling conversations where I got a lot more input down the line, I think, than probably we did early in the first series.
I'm just curious, because we did mention that we'd come back to this right at the start of this conversation. What sort of information was he actually sharing with you? You had the bios and such, but
it was just long. I would ask questions about this character. What would he do in this situation? He would give me some of the background info, and I don't remember it like being super like taking a lot of notes. It was more just trying to just get a feel in my head of what he had in mind. But he was also, again, open to, when I throw out his suggestions, like, what about this? Oh yeah, to run with that. It wasn't a true collaboration, but there were a lot of collaborative parts to it. This was definitely his baby. I was doing a little babysitting for it.
Yeah.
That's a nice way of putting it, actually.
Yeah.
At the end of this comic, you have Shao Kahn, as we said, brainwashing, putting the spell on Katana to remove her memories of realizing that Shao Kahn is not her true father, and telling Reptile to cover up this section of the castle where this information was. But then the final panel shows Melina coming to the realization of what she actually is. Did you ever intend to go anywhere with that? Because it was like an interesting little cliffhanger you left us on there.
I thought it was interesting. I kind of liked that it gave you something to ponder after the fact. I don't think we planned on doing anything with it, but you knew that there was more of the story. I kind of liked leaving it that the reader knows there's more to the story. He knows that there's things left unsaid that will impact the future, that will break relationships, that will make people take a different path. It's always never what you think it is. Part of what we're just trying to leave something out there that to make you think a little bit.
It's definitely a powerful panel. But what you've just said raises a question that I wanted to ask for a while as well, about maybe your approach to writing. Now, obviously, when you're writing, you're not just looking at the actual dialogue between the characters. You're setting up the scene and everything. How does that work in tandem with, say, the penciler and such? Like, what sort of communication's there?
It just depends on the artist. Most of the time, my scripts were very detailed, and I even would send breakdowns of what I thought the panel design should be. They could break away from that if they wanted to, but they at least know what part of the page I thought was important, how I saw it flowing. And most of the time they would follow those because it was easier than trying to figure it out for themselves, I think. And yeah, it was just again, because I worked professionally directing art directors, that kind of gave me a leg up on communicating with these artists who I didn't necessarily, most of them I never talked to. I did talk to Patrick Rolos, but the rest of them, I would see the finished pencils would be the first time I saw anything. I didn't even know who was working on most of them, which was, again, speaks to the fact that we were probably doing too many books at one time. It would have been nice to know such and such person was drawing this, and his strengths are the certain style. I could have written it to that.
Could see it potentially being an issue as well if somebody illustrated something that you'd written and the art itself didn't convey what you were trying to write.
All the time. I could point out panels here and there that just missed the boat, but I was just looking at one this morning, and I was like, oh man, Raiden in one of the tournament editions basically explodes himself to sacrifices himself to save the rest of the team, but the art just doesn't get it across. It doesn't, you don't see what happened. The words say it, but you don't see it. It's not clear from the pictures. Pictures, and sometimes they work great together, and sometimes they don't. So it's always frustrating. I wish I could draw.
Do the entire thing yourself.
I love it. Yeah.
With Shao Kahn, you were one of the first renditions, or your stories were one of the first renditions of him without his helmet and actually seeing his dragon-like face. And this is something that is even carried over into Mortal Kombat 11. I know we've had people that look at Mortal Kombat 11 are like, wow, this is what he looks like without his helmet on. Was this something that was handed off to you to do, or is this just something that you guys came up with on your own?
Can't remember. It might have been an artist. It might have been an artist choice. Yeah.
Let me ask you about another character. So in Blood and Thunder, you ended up incorporating a character named Hydro.
And, Malibu. Were you involved?
Yeah.
With Blood and Thunder? You were. Okay.
That was the first series.
All right.
Hydro has become a fan favorite. We still have people requesting Hydro in the video games. It amazes me, even though we have Rain, which is almost the same thing, but still people want Hydro. Tell me, where did this character come from? Because I'm sure people are interested in that.
He was part of that group of throwaway characters because they wouldn't let me kill all of
Right.
And again, we're trying to keep it familiar, but obviously not part of the main group, so that when you killed them, it wouldn't be. But you had to kill somebody.
Yeah, it's Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat. So I was shocked when I'm doing some of the research for this to see that he was a popular character. I was shocked, even though I could see the potential. But I just saw it as wouldn't it be cool if instead of ice, it was water? It was a tie in there, but not direct. And I heard the argument about, was it cold water? Is it? Yes, it was tepid water. It was very uncomfortable.
Could just add some ice cubes in there once in a while.
No, it was
comfortable enough.
Just a throwaway character that evidently caught some traction.
Well, a lot of traction. It has appeared in Mortal Kombat Mugen Fighters now, fan projects. Appeared in Mortal Kombat Legacy series as a cyborg. That's wow. How does it feel looking back on certain characters, or just is like we've been talking this entire time about how you've inspired certain things in later aspects of Mortal Kombat. How does it feel knowing that you pioneered that?
Yeah, I really haven't followed the franchise that closely after the fact, and probably because it wasn't something it wasn't my baby. I'm proud of the work we did. I'm happy to hear that some of the stuff, some of the concepts and characters have progressed and moved on with it. But it's interesting, but it doesn't really do that much for me. It's
Fair.
I want to talk about one more character.
Sure.
One of the, in my opinion, one of the funniest uses of a character was Bo, who is this giant person who's as big as Goro, and he's the bodyguard that's been hired out to, I think Johnny Cage actually hires him to protect Liu Kang or something like that, which is funny because you have the Earth's greatest warriors hiring a bodyguard. And you got this guy who ends up like beating Reptile and
with a broken arm.
Yeah, he's one of your throwaway characters.
I was trying to think back on that because I was listening to your conversation about it. I'm guessing that wasn't one I created because we didn't kill him. That was kind of like, if we killed him, I knew I created him. If we didn't kill him, I'm pretty sure that came from the house, but it seems odd that it would never have gotten picked up on. But the Blues Brother kind of look doesn't seem like something I would have done. I don't know, but the Bo sounds kind of like a name I would have done. I couldn't say one way or the other actually, but I'm guessing because he didn't die. I was shocked because again, when I was reading that guy's dead. He's gonna. That's it.
Did you have any influence with any of the Special Forces characters? Because they had a lot of extra characters that came in and died super quick.
Yeah, I didn't.
I know there's a different author, but
yeah, I didn't work on that. I remember being surprised that came out. I said, did I turn that down? Because I don't remember turning anything down. But that was that. I'm pretty sure Mark Benito wrote that one.
Oh.
He was the editor, so he claimed one himself.
Yeah.
So when you were writing about the characters, obviously you said you're very descriptive, you're very thorough. Now, with regards to actual character designs and such, would you describe them, how they looked and everything, or would you leave that up to the pencilers?
No, I think for the most part, the characters were pretty much established. What I would try to get across is, in my descriptions, and again, I might be each one of my pages of script might be 2 panels of description, but I would try to give them an idea of if I could draw what I'd be drawing. But they would obviously have some leeway to do, if they had a better solution. I would always tell them, please, if you have a better solution to this, do it. It's not, I don't want to take away what they bring to the party.
Yeah, fair. That's what you're relying on them for, right? So that's their aspect of the work.
That's what draws you in, I think, to comics if you don't like the art, you're not going to like the story. And it's too hard. And there were a lot of wasn't wild about all the art for all the series, but that's what, to me, that's what carries the day on comic books.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Tabmock99. Don't mean to interrupt the show, but I saw that you guys had the writer from Malibu Comics on, so I just had to ask a couple questions. First, did John Tobias or anyone else at the Midway team have any creative input on the characters and the storylines and stuff?
For the throwaway characters?
Yeah, the throwaway characters, like the names, the costumes, the designs, anything and everything.
I'm sure that I'm sure they saw everything. I just don't remember there being any. I know there weren't big changes on my end. I know that there might be. I saw a couple of instances where we probably softened something from what I originally had planned.
Mm-hmm.
I probably didn't want it as gory as when I started. Probably wanted to take it just because they understood the audience wasn't going to be a rated R comic. But no, I think that they had their input on the front end, and then they left us alone for the most part.
Now, when these comics were released in other countries, they didn't always use the name Malibu Comics. Like in Australia, they used the name Triel Comics. And in South America, they used the name Norma Comics. So what's the deal with that? Also, in Italy, they combined Bruce Lee into Mortal Kombat into one book. They were published together. Do you have any information on how that came to be?
I vaguely remember it coming out, but I really don't think I had anything to do with it because I would have thrown myself into watching all those Bruce Lee movies again, and I didn't.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. And by the way, you should definitely check out those Bruce Lee comics.
That's our homework for now, for after this episode.
I did it. It would not surprise me that some of those years are an absolute blur just because, again, young children, full-time job, and 4 or 5 comic books a week, left a little time for sleep.
Well, that kind of relates to what I was about to ask you then. Were there any specific challenges aside from what you just mentioned when writing Mortal Kombat?
I don't think so. It was a fun ride. And really, I think because I had a really young child when Planet of the Apes came out, I didn't get to experience the real excitement at the conventions with that book. I got to go around and be a rock star at conventions for Mortal Kombat when it came out. And it was great. I was like a celebrity in a very small subset of people. And I had my 15 minutes for sure.
Well, a lot longer considering all your inspirations.
Yeah. But that was fun. It was fun to be part of a really successful thing like that. And there were so many variant covers and so many reprints it was exciting. And it did well for the publisher, did well for all of us. It put my first kid through college. So.
Hey, you can thank Mortal Kombat. With regards to those challenges, and we've mentioned already that you haven't written everything Mortal Kombat. So did you have to bear in mind other takes on the characters and try to keep in line with those, or did you treat them as just different characters at all? Completely, sorry.
No, they let me be a steward of the property and gave me a lot of rope to take them the way I wanted to take them with it, obviously with input, but nothing that I never felt constrained, never felt like I felt with the Star Trek property where I had to worry, how does he say this? How does she say that? There was not, because of where we were in the process, the movie hadn't come out. Nobody knew much about these characters other than they were killing each other on a video game. Yeah. This was very early in the process.
Did you end up with a favorite series that you ended up writing? One of the favorite comic book?
I'll tell you, the ones I liked, the ones to me that captured the essence of the game were the 2 tournament editions, because they were series of, for one thing, they were oversized issues, 4 pages. So we had room to do some fight scenes, but also set up these nice full page shots where we basically take an aspect of the character and just do this real beauty shot with it that I thought worked great. But to me, it got the essence of the one-on-one confrontations, but also said something about the characters. To me, that worked better than the ongoing stories, which had a lot of aspects that felt tacked on, maybe because we needed extra things to tell a story. Those were, to me, the essence of the game, just refined and put into a comic book.
Struck that balance between the overarching story and the individual characters.
It was less, to me, those were less story driven and more character driven. And I think that's what really, it was more how one character interacts with a different character. So it was, to me, those were the most, they got across, again, the essence of the game better than anything else we did. Patrick Rolla just killed it on those.
Yeah, the art is amazing. You said at the start of this episode that Kano drew you in. From the comics that you wrote, and even regardless of whether they got a one-shot or whether they were just involved, who was your favorite character that you worked on?
I think Raiden was, again, I enjoyed the voice of him and the lost cause aspect of it. He was above it all, but there were parts of all of it. There were a few that seemed so 2-dimensional that it was almost, it's just going through the motions on sometimes, but there were always little things that made it fun.
With Mortal Kombat, you mentioned earlier that kind of being involved, like you said, it put your kid through college, but has it had any other major effects on your career or in your life as a whole?
It just reminded me of the story I was going to tell you. I've got another daughter who's a circus aerialist in Las Vegas. And when the last movie came out, she was at a party and there's a group of guys talking about the movie. And she sidles in to the group and says, my dad wrote Mortal Kombat comic books. And this guy gets up in her face and puts his hand on her, puts a finger up in her chest and says, you're a damn liar. Just, well, don't lie about that. He said, look cool. And they get into it. There's this heated fight at this party.
Oh
and afterward, she texts me and said, this guy is Riley. She told me the whole story about it. And so I go up into my attic and dig out some Mortal Kombat books and I sign them. I say, to Riley, if you touch my daughter again, I'm going to kill you. Best wishes, Charles Martin. They've become great friends. And so, Riley, if you're watching this, I wrote the Mortal Kombat comic books. He was dad. So, anyway, I told her.
Before moving on, well, hold on, Phantom, I got to do this. This is for Riley. Normally, we ask this question at the end of the episode. I'm asking now, just for Riley to know. Charles, what is your favorite fatality? And what would you perform on Riley?
No.
All right, Riley's been challenged. Charles, what kind of advice would you give to any aspiring comic book authors out there who want to go down the same path as you did? Because your story of getting into comics is pretty amazing to me.
The whole business has changed so much. I think in some ways it's easier. And in a lot of ways, if you want to try to break into a DC and Marvel, you can forget it. You can't even get a rejection letter these days. They'll tell you can't even submit something. It's all about networking, I think. Finding people that like-minded people that do it. If you're a writer, find an artist. If you're an artist, find a writer. It's so easy. The barriers to getting work out now are so much less than they were years ago. Online comics it's just, there's no barrier. So I'd say just get going, just make your own creations and just keep working and getting better. I do look back at a lot of the stories I did early and cringe, but they all led somewhere. I led to learning more about the craft and learning more about how to work with artists and how to tell stories and how to not be quite so wordy and tell more with less. And just think it's a great time. I think if you want to do this, if you want to do it professionally and make money at it, I think there's a lot of different ways to do it. And you guys are showing even in ways that have nothing to do with writing or drawing, there are ways to get involved if you're passionate about this kind of stuff. But practical advice, I don't have much because this changed so much. And I'd love to, I have more free time now. My kids are grown, but yeah, I've lost all my network's all gotten old and retired. It'd be tough to break back in, but hey, never too late.
That's actually what I was about to ask you. Would you say that you're done with comics now? Or, okay, yes, you might not have the networks at this point in time, although you might, you never know. But is there something that you could see yourself doing?
Sure. A couple of years ago, I was working on a project for a client. It's an organization called Hope for Henry, and they work with kids that are in hospitals for a long time on programs to help them deal with little things like they help decorate their rooms. They come up with reward programs for taking their medicine. It's a great little organization. Their mascot was this group of kind of crudely drawn superheroes, kids. And we did a social media campaign for them where I reached out to comic book artists, comic strip artists, illustrators, and got them to all do their own rendition of these characters, it was super. It was great. But one of the artists I met, we just got connected and talked about wanting to do comic books and learning a little bit about my backstory. And he said, man, if you'd like to work on something, I'd love to do this. I had some ideas I was kicking around and I went ahead and wrote the script for this idea I had and it was so funny, the difference between technology now and when I was first doing it. I created something that looked like a comic book with word balloons and everything and pulling in stock photography or just any images I could find that kind of represent what before I would have maybe scrawled out. So I wound up sitting on a PDF of something that very much looked like a comic book, but it was just all these different images in there, but with the word balloons and everything, it was a scene because I said, I wish I'd have had all this way back when, because I would have known
Yeah.
that's too much copy. You don't have a sense of, it takes a while to learn how much copy is going to be too much copy. And then he got too busy to fool with it. But I did enjoy the process of putting together a comic book again. It was like, wow, you feel your old muscle memory coming back. It's a whole different creative process than most of the stuff I do now.
Are there any projects you'd be interested in being part of in the future, or would you even consider being a part of Mortal Kombat again in the future?
Oh, like I said, I've got more free time than I know what to do with right now. I'd love to do something. It's just finding the right opportunity and just getting the rust knocked off, getting involved.
It sounds like you've already gotten the rust knocked off with one actual thing that really stuck out to me with what you just said about getting back into the comic book writing is that you didn't go back to your old methods of writing it. And I know that many people have difficulty in changing up their own style. Like when you do something, you do it your way. What you just said to me right now is you immediately went and did it on new technology and everything. And that's actually a very interesting thing to hear.
Yeah, I think it's just because, again, when you're writing this stuff, you have something in your head and you're trying to get someone else to put it on paper. It's very much, we do a lot of video work or it's the same process. You're trying to get something that's in your head laid down on video or animation or whatever the process is. There's always that communication. If you can communicate the idea better, the more information you can provide, the better the final outcome is, generally, what I found. But if you can accomplish it without getting across a lot of information, it's just going to not necessarily be what you intended.
Charles, before we let you go, where can our listeners find you? Do you want to be found at this point, or are you got your life in Mortal Kombat behind you? But if anybody wanted to look you up and see more of what you're doing now, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Probably not. I don't really have a lot of non-marketing stuff that is promotable, but anyone, if you want to put my email address out, I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to anyone that wants more info or got a question that you guys didn't ask, if there possibly could be one. I don't know that there could be.
We could potentially do a follow-up sometime.
My colonoscopy wasn't quite that thorough, but yeah, I wish I had answers for all your questions.
Oh, don't worry. I'm sure we'll have more.
Yeah, Charles, we'd like to thank you so much for joining us today on this episode. It was a real pleasure to have you on the Realm Kast today.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, blast.
And thank you for all of our listeners for stopping by the Realm Kast. You can find Yanni and myself, Phantom, on the Mortal Kombat group on Facebook. You can also find Yanni on the Mortal Kombat meme realm, which is also on Instagram. Special thanks to Uppercut Editions for the continued support. The Realm Kast is the official podcast of Mortal Kombat Online. You can catch up on all episodes of the Realm Kast on YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, Spotify, and MortalKombatOnline.com.
And this is Tabmock99. Thanks for watching the Realm Kast.